It's like a city that's looked down on. Like they're not good enough.
Place where I feel best.
Everything that I want in a place to live.
Doesn't get the respect it deserves.
It's home.
It does feel like home.
It's home. I can't really see myself being anywhere else.
Milwaukee, the Cream City, Brew City, Milltown. These are some of the many names on the list that people call the city of Milwaukee. But the name that correlates most to the city now derives from its founding history. Minwakin, a Potawatomi word, means gathering place by the water. This word that the Native Americans supplied hundreds of years ago constructed the city known as Milwaukee, the very first name on a list of many more. In the past, those gatherings were referring to fur trade or crop production. But in 2022, there's one big series of events that constantly drives traction to this city. Right in the heart of Milwaukee stands Fiserv Forum, an arena recently developed thanks in part to the citizens of the Cream City through public funding. The city's people gather at this location day in and day out for one event: basketball. Today is the final home game of the Milwaukee Bucks 2021-2022 NBA regular season. The team and fans alike are readying up for a title defense of the Larry O'Brien Trophy. A few miles west of Fiserv Forum, American Family Field waits as the Milwaukee Brewers are in Chicago facing off against the Chicago Cubs, their first series of the 2022 MLB season. The Crew are looking to repeat their division crown from a season ago, but they are hoping for a little more than that this time around. These sports are massive on a national level, but in turn, Milwaukee is not. It is the 37th ranked sports market in the United States. For a city that holds powerhouse teams such as the Bucks and Brewers, the issue still lies in the size of the city, no matter how competitive they are in their respective leagues, thus giving Milwaukee another name to add to the list: small market.
Being a small market team is being different than the large market teams. We don't have the resources of New York or LA. We don't have the attractions of weather that they have in South Beach. So it's always been an uphill climb to be a fan of a small market team, and for the organization itself, they always have an uphill battle for being competitive in this league.
Smaller markets may have tougher time retaining, franchise players longer. It's dependent on the ownership and their willingness to wanting to win consistently.
Free agents don't generally want to come here, and if they do, it's the guys that are past their prime. So the only way that you can really become a competitive championship caliber team is finding something in the draft.
But every once in a while there's these anomalies that pop up, whether it's like the San Antonio Spurs, St. Louis Cardinals that have been just kind of consistently good and win World Series championships. I do think there is times where it can, you can mitigate the advantages that bigger cities may have to offer. All the factors have to kind of like line into once to kind of play or fall into place kind of thing.
Being a fan of a small market team it's fun. We get to have more fun than I think some of the bigger franchises out there. There's so much pressure in professional sports in general, and if you're in the New Yorks, the Los Angeles, Chicagos of the world, there's an expectation to be great even if you aren't. And every single year, your fans all over the country and the world expect that from you. But being in a small market, you kind of just get to be frisky. You have more fun along the way.
Small market cities get behind their players more. Like, coming from the outside, I always felt like these guys they're just going out in Milwaukee. They're just hiding out in some small market. They can avoid all the pressure and stuff. But I think it really brings people closer to their teams. I see how players are much more engaged in their communities in different ways in small markets where like people just kind of care for them. They feel like they're part of the city, not just the team. People just really are like, they feel like they're really part of something special every year, any team.
I just feel like you enjoy it that much more because it isn't every day, and you see it all the time. Stars don't always line up to come to Milwaukee, but if you build the culture, maybe they will.
You're told that small markets can't win, especially in the NBA. I feel like I haven't heard that outside of maybe baseball as well. But small markets can't win. They don't deserve to win. They don't have the willpower, the money, the support to win. Being here, it's like people get behind their team so much more than I've ever seen. It's really just a passion I think is unmatched in big markets. They don't have that. Whereas here, like these small market teams, like they don't have much else to go for. Like these are their guys. This is their way to put their name on the map. And that's what matters to them, is just being like getting that recognition, that respect from other places.
Milwaukee doesn't get the justice it deserves from the national media. They're not going to talk about Milwaukee as much. They're not going to talk about Memphis. They're not going to talk about Orlando. These teams are naturally going to get less media coverage because Los Angeles exists, New York exists. The Knicks can be terrible, but guess what? We're going to spend 10 minutes talking about them.
I mean, think about how Giannis was treated. Like, he never talked about contract extensions. He never talked about anything money related, but everybody talked about how Giannis was going to leave because nobody wants to stay in Milwaukee. But nobody could say why. Why wouldn't anybody want to stay in Milwaukee?
That's a good question. Why would someone want to leave Milwaukee? Superstar athletes such as Giannis Antetokounmpo and Christian Yelich both signed multi-year extensions to stay in the city. So who would want to leave? Well, believe it or not, the Milwaukee Bucks themselves. Nearly a decade ago, the Milwaukee Bucks were at a point of peril. The discussions surrounding the team relocating were at an all-time high due to the franchise's shortcomings in the 2000s and early 2010s. Fans were extremely concerned for the well-being of sports within the city, and some decided to take action.
Fan interest in the city, it's gone through waves. And Herb Cole bought the team, and they moved over to the Bradley Center, and things started to fall apart. After they broke up that team with Sam Cassell getting traded, Ray Allen getting traded, Glenn Robinson being traded, it hit rock bottom. Herb Cole always wanted to put a competitive product on the floor, even if that wasn't a championship team. So during that 2013 season, we had signed guys like, we brought back Luke Ridnour, we got Caron Butler, we brought back Zaza. All these guys that were, past their prime, past their usefulness. And there were nights you'd go to the Bradley Center, and they would announce the numbers a lot higher, but I would swear there'd only be between 1,000 and 2,000 fans in there some nights. So you could sit behind the Bucks bench for $20. That playoff series versus the Heat, we had Brandon Jennings and Monta Ellis, and then we traded Tobias Harris for J.J. Redick. That was really the final move that a lot of fans were like, we're done. We don't want to watch this anymore. And somebody actually gave me tickets to that playoff series, which is unbelievable. And I was like 10th row. Somebody just gave them to me because they didn't even want to go and watch. And that's how low fan interest got.
With fan interest at an all-time low. Inversely, the chances of the Bucks leaving Milwaukee were at an all-time high. And though it may seem that the organization had given up on the city, the fans had not given up on their team.
Save Our Bucks was a fan-based group that had been putting together a website and a lot of information prior to the 2013 season. And then when things started rolling and Adam Silver came out and said the Bradley Center needs to be replaced, you need to have a plan. The Bucks kept losing games, and it was looking really, really bad because every couple weeks you'd see an article or you'd see a news story about how the Bucks could be moving to Seattle. So it was a very real possibility that our franchise was going to leave town, coupled with the fact that Herb Cole wanted to sell at that time. He figured he didn't want to be in the arena fights. He didn't want to continue at this time, with that record that he had, he hit bottom as well, and said it's time for a new steward of the franchise. But then the greater fears were, Adam Silver said to Herb Cole, the Bradley Center has to be replaced, because we felt it was going to be a very uphill battle to get any sort of public financing, because that's the way that these things seem to be done nowadays.
I definitely thought the Bucks were going to leave Milwaukee. It's hard to tell when you have a project tied with public and private funds, and it's dependent on the states and how they view the Bucks. It's been a long time since the Bucks were relevant, not even just successful. So you don't know how people are going to react to that. And it's been a while since you kind of saw like a good team, and you're kind of, relying on past teams for, past glories, and be like, this is what it looked like to be a successful team in Milwaukee.
If the Bucks had moved in 2013, I would give it a very likely I would not have moved here, honestly. I think it's amazing how sports means so much, at least to me.
So we kind of came together. I was always kind of active on Twitter and calling in the sports radio shows and stuff like that. So my name was out there for a little bit, just as a big fan. And then we put up a billboard, crowdfunding source, $5,000 got raised in like 2 or 3 days. We didn't want to see it end. We wanted to see the team stay here, and we wanted to see everything that came to fruition, a brand new arena, a brand new downtown footprint. I thought it was only going to be, kind of a flash in the pan, a couple weeks, couple radio interviews, not a big deal. But it just kept rolling, it just kept snowballing, and it kept evolving, and we wanted to, call out the issues of the franchise. The two main people that saved our Bucks are Herb Cole and Giannis, because without Herb Cole selling to the right ownership group, they never would have stayed here, and without Giannis here, I don't think the funding would have been approved, because he provided that hope that we could be a great franchise again. It was just a coming together of a lot of things at the same time that really gave us some momentum in the media, and people were listening to us.
To the city's avail, the Milwaukee Bucks were eventually sold to an ownership group that was dedicated to staying in Milwaukee, with Mark Lasry and Wes Edens at the helm. But the franchise had a long way to go when it comes to building its future, namely a new arena. But the Bucks, instead of having the future come to them in time, they decided to own that future.
When Lasry and Edens bought the team, we didn't know very much about them. So it's easy to be apprehensive when you don't know much about them. And a lot of people were looking at what happened to Seattle, because that was a very proud franchise with a lot of fan interest and a lot of public support to keep the team there. We thought, okay, these guys, have a lot of financial backing. That's a good thing. These guys have good business acumen. That's a good thing. But how are they going to exactly manage the team? Sometimes you get guys that bring the money, so they want to make the decisions. We didn't want an owner that was going to be super involved. We wanted an owner that was going to hire the right basketball people and let them run the team.
You're not going to go anywhere without kind of a elite level player. You can't predict someone becoming a multi-time MVP or being selected at age 18 and thought of as the biggest project, the biggest gamble of all time. And we're not even talking about like a first overall pick kind of thing. You have to have a little bit of luck and fortune go your way, but yeah, if you build things the right way, eventually success will lead to it being on the court or on the field.
With a new ownership group in place and fans as optimistic as ever, basketball in Milwaukee was on the up. And eventually, they hit the top, winning an NBA championship. But how did they do it?
I think investment helped a lot. I mean, you see, obviously, Pfizer Forum being built and constructed.
You see what the Bucks are doing in all the restaurants, the building out of the Deer District, and all of the commerce that comes from doing those things. That's good for the city, and that might be more of a large market type of move, but I can't say that that's hurting us in any way.
Not even just that, it's the practice facilities, it's Deer District, obviously. Investing in the players themselves. Like, it takes one, it's very easy to sign guys like Giannis and be, we're going to tag you as the guy that's going to be leading the team and stuff like that. but when it wasn't working out with Eric Bledsoe, they go after Drew Holiday. When it wasn't working out with Jason Kidd, they go after Mike Budenholzer.
The Bucks did such a great job just kind of using Giannis to build the fan base. They were using him to show this potential. All the awards he's won, they used him as the way to grow the fan base and grow support and be like, this team has something potentially special. Get behind it now or you're going to be lost.
I think the narrative surrounding Milwaukee sports right now is they are trying to stick to their roots. I don't see them going all Hollywood, but having elements of bigger franchises and running your franchise or your team that way can only help bolster the city and the economy around it.
Because you see hotels going up, you see new restaurants opening, you see all this ancillary development that's happening because of the Bucks' success. During that time when the arena was a question mark, the Restaurant Association got behind the arena, construction industry got behind the arena. There's all these other industries that people don't necessarily think about that will be benefactors of a successful sports team.
It's just making our lives as a small market fans that much better. We're getting kind of this bigger market feel, but it's not overpowering.
Recognizing that it had been a long time since the Bucks were kind of valued in that way. They themselves kind of viewed it as like a distressed asset, and putting that level of investment and stuff like that eventually will lead to success on the court.
They're helping these fans have fun at these games, and they want the fans to see the best product they can put out there.
Well, what the Bucks and Brewers have done is they've kept their talent around. They've convinced the talent that they bring in, and they've developed that talent, and they've gotten them to stay. You look at Giannis, who signs the Supermax extension. You look at Yelich, has his MVP year, commits for 9 years.
How much they recognize we value Bobby Portis and bringing him back was also like, they knew that. They knew the fans loved him, and to have let him go would have been a travesty.
You get these guys that come in and they revolutionize the fan base. They become fan favorites immediately through individual accolades, and then they commit. And how can't you love that as a small market?
I mean, the Bucks right now, I feel like they built this team together. They worked for years. Giannis was drafted almost a decade ago. They built this team, and they had a vision, and they saw it out. And that's something that's really amazing to see, like a process of a championship team.
Having someone of Giannis's potential, you're seeing incremental steps. It explodes to where he's an MVP candidate after his 6th season or something like that. It's hard not to kind of want to invest in that and making the right decisions along the way. They did get better every year. Maybe some decisions they made weren't the right ones. I mean, that happens with every team. But when push came to shove, having someone like Giannis makes it so much easier to kind of build your team around and be like, that's the face of our franchise. And to Giannis' credit, he has lived up to every bit of it.
And sometimes our connection to sports is more than just what happens on the court or on the field. It's those personal stories that we share with others that makes us the fans that we are.
So my partner actually, she works at a restaurant in the 3rd Ward, and Coach Budenholzer will go to that restaurant sometimes. He comes to the restaurant one day and he offers her 2 tickets to a game. And we got tickets for Mike Budenholzer to go sit next to his partner at the game where Giannis scores a buzzer beater over the Hornets. One of the greatest games I've ever seen. And just the connection I had, I never got to meet Mike. That would have never happened anywhere else. I don't think that's possibly happening everywhere else. But that was special. I saw something special that day, and that was just one of the greatest single experiences I've had as a sports fan, and it was just a regular season game.
Being able to go to Game 6 of the NBA Finals last year in 2021, Axel Toupane, one of our Bucks players, was one of our bench guys. He's no longer on the team now, but he had an extra ticket and was doing a contest on Twitter and was giving away his 1 extra finals ticket down in the friends and family section for the Milwaukee Bucks. He picked me out of all the contestants, all the people that tweeted at him, and so I was able to get 1 finals ticket. So I went alone, and just being able to go into the arena, see the 90,000 some fans outside the arena, wading through that crowd, getting in there, just the buzz in the air, getting to sit 10, 15 rows behind the Bucks bench and watch us win a championship in person, that was one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of. That is another way that you just build goodwill with a fan base, and you build goodwill with your city by doing stuff like that. It's just giving a guy that would never be able to afford Game 6 finals tickets to actually get into the game, and that was a really cool, special moment.
I couldn't be happier to be sitting in Fiserv Forum, and especially during the Deer District last year in the championship, to see 60,000, 80,000 fans, whatever the official numbers were. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. I don't think anything will ever match that. It was a once in a lifetime, and it was a historic moment.
They did it. A team in the city of Milwaukee had won a championship for the first time in decades. Everything that had led up to this moment was worth it. Even through the peaks and valleys, it all worked out in the end. But this isn't the end. It is only the beginning. Maintaining success is more difficult than just doing it one time.
Well, now that the Bucks have won the championship and they've shown that the city of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin will support a winner at this level, I think that really lays the blueprint, and it lays the foundation to back up what we always believed would be true. If you build a winner, the fans will come, and they will come out in droves. Wisconsin and Milwaukee, they're one of the biggest rabid sports fans markets that there is.
There's been so much struggle from the Bucks for a long time, trying to win, and the Brewers for a long time trying to get to the playoffs again. And all these teams, they didn't keel over and move. These teams stuck it out in their towns that cared for them. They had people that owned the franchises that cared for them and wanted them to win. It's kind of like our patience paid off. That's kind of one of the most deserving and rewarding things as a sports fan, is watching some sort of patience and waiting and being told we can get there, and then seeing it actually happen. Unreal.
I think what you're going to see here now is you're going to see a residual effect. You're going to see the people that grew up with Giannis and Chris Middleton in this era, they're going to go on and have kids. Those kids are then going to listen to stories of how great Giannis was and his 50 points in the finals.
That championship run created fans for life, and it's just going to be people that are going to be like, we'll be patient with this team again because we know they can win. We know they can get back to the mountaintop, and we're going to get behind them, and obviously there might be a little drop off, but I just think there's just going to be too many hardcore fans to make it really noticeable.
Kids are going to turn into fans and do the same, and then maybe the cycle repeat when those kids are a little bit older, teenagers or young adults. Maybe the team's good again, and every team's going to go through these stages. You can't be good forever.
Anytime somebody says something negative about Milwaukee, people get really up in arms right now. And I think we need to get to the point to where we just have that confidence that we know who we are, we know what we are. It doesn't matter what the national media is saying about what we can or cannot do here.
I think Milwaukee fans should continue to embrace that small market narrative, just because you see all these stars flock to bigger cities, bigger teams that have all the money in the world that can spend this and not, they print money basically.
We will never be on the same population level as Chicago or New York, but we have the resources to do everything that they can do and do it better.
I think you can bring elements of larger markets and some of the stuff that they do well into our market, but don't try to convince anybody of something that you're not. Milwaukee's never going to be Chicago. It's not going to happen. We shouldn't pretend like we are. So you can do some of the stuff that these bigger teams do well, but don't stray too far from it.
To see a team like the Bucks and the Brewers kind of buck that narrative and kind of show that it can work here in a market as small as Milwaukee, I think that's inspirational to teams around kind of the area, the region. It breeds success and kind of wants you to follow that same model that other teams aspire to getting to.
I think the small market narrative makes us who we are. I think they should absolutely embrace it, continue to embrace it. This team in this city, the bonds we form is unique to small markets. We feel more connected to the players, I feel like. And I feel like if we were to kind of break off from that mentality of a small market, we would kind of hurt small markets as a whole. I think it's important that we kind of show unity and stick together with them, because that's what makes part of Milwaukee special, is that this is a smaller city, and it's not a place that professional sports usually succeed. But we've proven that we can, and I think to shy away from that would be a disservice to the city as a whole.
Milwaukee, Minwakin, a gathering place for all to come together to be united by teams that we love. The sports scene continues to grow here, and the bonds that we have all created because of it. As the city grows, we all as people do as well. These organizations that spend big money do it because of Fandom, the people that represent the city they play for. As time goes on, players will come and go. Fans will live and die. People will move to Milwaukee or move away, but teams such as the Bucks and Brewers will continue to play the game here in Milwaukee for decades to come. That will always connect people back to the city and the times that they had here. These big sports mean the world to us in our small market. It's a beating heart at the center of a city that gathers so many diverse people together. And who knows, maybe one day, these big sports might not be too big for Milwaukee anymore.